The big question everybody always wants to know is what's approved until when? So I've started with that. These are the tests that are currently approved through February 2019, which is the same as all the other test publishers' tests that are all approved through 2019. We understand they will extend till June of 2019, but they haven't told anyone that yet. The Life and Work Reading 80 series and as well as the Beginning Literacy 27 and 28 are the reading tests that are approved now. The Life and Work 980 listening series is the approved test for NRS, and the Life Skills 30 series for math. Now, generally there is what they call a sunset period that kicks in after the tests are no longer approved. So we, again, OCTAE has not announced that, but that is usually the case. So our new test series is called Goals, and as you've heard a few times already, it is, and we were very proud to say, very strongly aligned to the CCRS standards. We took great pains to make it so, and feel very confident that it is measuring those standards in all of the rigor that they include. We, in this new series, thought we might be able to go to computer delivered only, but we did not. And so they are available in both paper and in electronic delivery. We did do the test development from 2013 to 2016, wrote and field tested items. We conducted research studies. Then we did submit to the NRS reading and math tests for ABE and ASE. That was in October of 2016. We have been, even since then, conducting additional studies. We are waiting to hear back from OCTAE, from the NRS, on those two submissions. Only ABE NRS descriptors have been published and finalized, right? The ELL descriptors are still being worked on, and they have not been released yet. We are anxiously awaiting those NRS descriptors for ELLs because we really we want to see whether we can, and we hope we can, use the same reading test for ELLs as we developed for ABE, because that's what we've always done. That's the case with the current Life and Work reading series. It's used for both ABE, ASE, as well as ELLs. So we hope that we will be able to do the same with the new Goals series, but we won't know that for sure until we see the new NRS descriptors. And it's a little tricky because I don't know how many of you are up to date on your ELL standards, but last fall, OCTAE released the English Language Proficiency Standards, ELPS for short, and we're going to talk more about those a little later today. But basically they factor in here because that is one piece of the puzzle as far as standards go, and our test development then as well. And then the CCRS standards have a reading section, of course, which we use to develop our ABE test. But as far as listening is concerned, they also have a speaking and listening section. So in terms of developing the and finalizing the tests for reading and listening tests for ELLs, we need the new NRS descriptors to tell us how it all fits together. So when they come out, they will be coming out in draft form. And I think there's about a 2-month public comment period. Then they'll take those comments, see what they do with them, come back out again, I believe, for another month or so. All right, as Pat already said, we do a lot of research studies in the development of these tests, and one of them is a content study, so we need to make sure that the tests truly are aligned to the CCRS, and our staff is very tuned into that, but it helps us to get other perspectives, and we've used focus groups here at the Summer Institute and other panels that we pulled together to help us ensure that they are well aligned. For standard setting, that's a study that some of you here have also participated in. We thank you for that. It's we'll be doing that. We did it last year for the ABE reading and math, And we will be doing it presumably this year or next year for the ELL reading and eventually for listening. So what is measured in these reading tests? CASAS competencies are still part of the mix. We are not abandoning them by any chance, by any stretch of the imagination. We still are very dedicated to measuring reading in relevant contexts for adults, though these tests are more academic because they need to be well aligned to the CCRS. But the CASAS competencies still fit. And so we do develop based on them, and you will get reports based on them in an ongoing way. But for content standards, I might say that there's more of a focus on content standards than in the past series. We have updated the CASAS reading standards, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. So we have a 2016 version of the CASAS reading standards. And then, of course, we're using the CCRS standards, both the reading anchors as well as the reading foundations anchors. We still have our reading task areas. Depth of knowledge. How many of you know what depth of knowledge refers to? Okay, just about everybody. I think, as I was saying this morning, earlier, 2 years ago, we wouldn't have had very many hands come up. So I think there's been progress in the field of adult ed in terms of understanding what DOK is, because it really originated with K-12, and it's something that we've adopted, and I think it really has added to our understanding of how to assess reading. Academic vocabulary is something that is very much present in the new series, and we decided to use something called the Academic Word List, the AWL for short, which is based on frequency of appearance of words in academic texts. So that is a way that we were able to narrow the universe a little bit in terms of what words we would be testing for academic language. So these are the areas, the broad content areas of the new CASAS reading test. And vocabulary is something that we never tested per se before. And this shows the relationship to the CCRS, which is essentially R4 in the reading anchor standards. So there's a section of there are vocabulary questions. The other two sections, one is called reading comprehension skills, essentially DOK 1. Okay, so that's just retrieving information with a lower level of cognitive ability required. And so we have R1 and R2 that are the related CCRS anchors for that. Locate information, detail, and cite evidence, and main idea, and supporting details. And then the third category, major category, is we call higher order reading skills, essentially higher order thinking skills in reading, where these, you can see the CCRS anchors on the right. Again, R1 and R2 are also there because in R1 and R2 they do go to DOK2 and higher. So it's also cite evidence, but in addition, infer, draw conclusions, and summarize. And then text structure and features is R5, the author's purpose and point of view R6, analyze arguments and claims. So those are the higher order category subcategories. And we will be reporting the test results in these categories. You can see at the bottom that there are 3 reading anchor standards that cut across the content areas, R7, R9, and R10. So we do measure them, but they are in addition to the target standards that are listed there. We do have 4 test levels, A to D. We are still with multiple choice, but we have made a variation to it. Instead of just comprehension questions as the stem, the question in the item, we have expanded that to sentence completion, where there's a statement and then a blank line, and then the distractors complete that statement. We have some new features for the texts in order to accommodate the CCRS alignment. One of them, and you can see that shown in this handout, is that there are numbered lines in the text, so we can refer to specific lines. as a way to cite evidence or do some of the other standards. Then we have underlined words that are useful in testing vocabulary. At level A, we have photo prompts. We've incorporated something we call item families, which is to have more items related to a single passage than we have had in the past. And part of the reason for that is to try to keep the test within about an hour. It may go a little bit over an hour. We're going to say that you can have 75 minutes, but not for level A. For level A, they don't need it. Even with the number of questions that there are, they can. We know from field testing that they can do it within an hour. But at the other levels, we think they may need a little more time. But the reason that we're having more items for a passage is that is an economy of time. Let's go on to the math series. And here you can see that, again, CASAS competencies are still very much part of the mix. All of the math items are still in an adult context. They're all things that adults need to do with math. The content standards, we have our CASAS math standards that have not changed because they were recently updated. And the CCRS standards, which again are very strongly aligned. There are a range of item types in the math series, word problems, and we've made an effort to keep the language, the text complexity of the language as simple as possible, because we're not testing reading, we're trying to test math. So we've kept that language text complexity and cognitive load to be consistent with the level expectations for math, but also to keep the language as simple as possible so that that's not part of what's being assessed. There is calculation, simple to advanced. There are traditional academic contexts. And the scenarios are situational, as I said. They reflect real-world applications of math. With the math series, we've done something a little bit different with the leveling. There are parallel forms at combined level A and B and combined level C and D. As far as calculators are concerned, on an e-test, they will appear on the screen. They'll be provided in a paper delivery mode. And as far as formulae go, we're not trying to test their memory, so we are providing formulae when that's something that's necessary to solve the math problem. So in this, this shows you more clearly what I was just saying, that how the levels overlap. It's phenomenal, really. There were 200,000 adult learners who were involved in our field testing for this series. Part of that is because we now do embedded item field testing where the items go right into the operational forms, but we had many of you do that very challenging study where the same student has to take alternate forms of the test within a week, and we really appreciate it when you do that. We have some math studies that we're currently doing. This is for ABE, HSE, and HSD students, as well as ESL students who are high level, so high, intermediate, and advanced can do these. There are these parallel forms studies where the same student has to take alternate forms of the test within a week. There are studies where we have students who take the paper version and e-test version, the web-based version, because we need to show that the tests are comparable regardless of the delivery mode. We're continuing to do some more data collection on the HiSET study. And we got a sample of about 100 already, and we had good results, but we'd like to build it up a bit more so we can see that there is a relationship between the HiSET, and we can tell you what that is between the HiSET and CASAS. And then for teachers of math, another study that we do is to ask them to, if their students get tested, we ask them to tell us independently of the test score how they would judge their student, what NRS-EFL they think their student is, and as another way of validating the test results.